Welcome back to the Detox Your Dome podcast. Today's episode is for all of the moms and moms-to-be. First, happy Mother's Day. If you have ever felt overwhelmed or confused by the world of non-toxic living, if you have spent hours Googling what you should and shouldn't consume as a new mom only to end up frustrated not knowing who to trust for the right information, you are in the right place, because there is an organization out there whose entire mission is dedicated to helping new moms shop with peace of mind. On this episode, we interview Lanning, founder of Sorette. Sorette is a new product standard for motherhood. Sorette has put together a scientific advisory board with OBGYNs, dermatologists, epidemiologists, nutritionists, and experts in women's health to create this no-go list. It has thousands of banned and restricted ingredients. They have created this Sorette seal of approval. So the Sorette-approved for motherhood certification, products can earn if they meet all of those standards. They also have a marketplace on their website where you can shop all of the Sorette-approved products. They have products for body care, for skincare, for fertility, for postpartum. This episode is packed with information, advice, and product recommendations. We talk about Lanning's motherhood journey and why she started this organization. We talk about the ingredients that pregnant people should avoid. We give advice on how to not get overwhelmed in this space, and we help you to simplify low-tox living for motherhood. Sorette is truly filling a gap that is so needed in the world of beauty and personal care. I am so grateful we got to sit down and talk with Lanning about all things motherhood and low-tox living. I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to Detox Your Dome, the podcast, where we empower you with knowledge about the ingredients that make up the products that we use every day. And we help you to become a more informed consumer on your journey towards living a clean, safe, and toxin-free lifestyle. Detox Your Dome. Body, home, planet. Thank you so much, Lanning, for joining us on the podcast today. We are so excited to ask you all of the questions and help moms navigate this very complex and overwhelming time.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, so I would love to just start with Sorette and understanding how you got this idea to form this organization.
Sure. So I guess really the idea is a total blend from my professional background and my personal background. I spent my career in consumer product goods in food and beverage and was really exposed to the inner workings of how, natural, better for you food and beverage CPG brands utilize third-party certifications to help position themselves to certain demographics. And so through the course of working across probably 40 brands in total between the consultancy that I was working at and my other two roles, was really blown away at how these food and beverage brands lean on these tools as a way to market and position themselves in their go-to-market strategy. And then when I became pregnant, I was probably about 5 or 6 weeks pregnant, was breaking out in hormonal acne from the pregnancy. I was pregnant with my daughter, and that tends to happen when you're pregnant with a girl, and was reaching for, yeah, it's not fun. My husband was like, you look like you're in middle school. It was like,
no, it's true. It's like they take your beauty and,
I've heard
and
that.
They have it.
Yep, it's not good. So I was reaching for a cleanser that I would normally use. It's not my everyday cleanser, but it was something that was very good at combating the bacteria and had a lot of active components to it. And so I Googled it, and then that's when I was made aware of all of these chemicals that are in personal care products that you should avoid during pregnancy that I had no idea about. And I was just totally caught off guard, felt so overwhelmed and had so much anxiety because I had told my doctor that I was pregnant, but she basically, told me that not to drink alcohol and avoid sushi and deli meats, but didn't say anything about are you using tretinoin every night? Are you using chemical sunscreen, etc.? So the light bulb went off for me where as a celiac, as someone who has a gluten allergy, I can easily identify products for that dietary restriction in the grocery store, on the product packaging, on someone's direct-to-consumer site. But when you're pregnant and growing a human inside your body, there's no way to identify that easily. There's so many conflicting resources online. Person that really every brand points you to, your OBGYN, they don't have the background in environmental toxin exposure to support that buying decision. So it's totally a blend of my background in CPG and then my personal experience going through the navigation of consumer products, and then through 2 pregnancies, now raising toddlers, almost 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, navigating products for them and products for our house.
Mm-hmm.
It's really difficult, especially when you're a first-time mom.
Yeah, this is so exciting. I like cannot wait to be a mom one day. I'm 26, so hopefully in the next 4-5 years. How
You need to put
soon?
a time box on it.
I know. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But how, when it happens tomorrow, how soon do you think women should start like focusing on living like a non-toxic lifestyle to conceive a baby, but also for like a healthy baby?
You know, it's interesting because I think this life stage, when you're either you just found out you're pregnant or you're going, you know, you're thinking about trying to conceive, or you're going through this fertility journey. So kind of like right at the beginning of the motherhood journey as a whole is when people really start thinking and evaluating what they're using. So for me, again, like I was a low toxic consumer. You know, for the most part, I worked in like the natural food category for years, was shopping at the clean retailers. I had to further refine what I was putting on my body during this specific life stage. And then, you know, people who are conventional beauty buyers and consumers of conventional products, meaning not clean or like non-toxic, they have this moment where maybe they're going through a fertility journey and they're really having a hard time conceiving. They're starting to evaluate everything else that's going on, that they're surrounding themselves with, you know, like cleaning and the nail polish and all, like their 30-step makeup routine in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this moment in time where you really start thinking about everything that you're consuming inside your body and outside your body. It's usually either this or cancer that really kind of sparks this change.
Right.
So I would say the earlier the better. You know, anyone and everyone has the power to make a more conscious consumer decision. So it's really more about taking the onus on like the education side of buying products.
Right.
And that's on the flip side, that's what we're trying to help consumers with,
Right.
easily identifying products versus having to take that like huge learning curve on all of the crazy chemicals that are in these
Right. It is like a part-time job. Once you start reading your ingredients, I always say this. I'm like, you are spending hours because you're so skeptical of everything to say, well, what is in my foundation now? What's in my window spray? Like you just start to question everything.
Yeah.
So when you were you found this list of ingredients you should stay away from, you were pregnant, you were thinking about forming Sorette. How were you educating yourself? What were like your trusted sources to go to learn about ingredients and to see if products were safe or not?
Yeah, I mean, so I was pregnant with my daughter during COVID. So this was like compounded with this mindset of like health and like fear around health. So I probably was a little crazier than I would have been.
You dove right in.
Yeah.
Like had so much time on my hands to do this type of thing.
Perfect time.
And so, you know, there's some great resources out there, you know, are nonprofit entities with a ton of research behind them, like the EWG, and even like actually reading some of the PubMed articles around these chemical exposures and fertility outcomes, or how, you know, they can affect like the developmental side of pregnancy, etc. And like honestly on both sides, from fertility for men and women, sperm count, motility, etc.
Right.
So really leaning on like the evidence-based research. So sources that I knew were utilizing that type of resource and citation.
Yeah. And so you're pregnant, you're 5-6 weeks pregnant, it's mid-COVID. How did you start a company mid-COVID while pregnant?
So I actually didn't start it when I was pregnant with my daughter. I started it after my son was born. So the idea sparked when I was pregnant with my daughter. And he's turning 4 in May. So this was many years ago at this point. And I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do in order to solve the problem, whether it was going to be like an actual product myself in a certain category. I was going back and forth, you know, for years. And I don't think at that point I really was ready to take the leap and start something on my own until after my son was born. And that's really when I felt very compelled to do something, because I had then experienced this frustration twice. All of my girlfriends were asking me for my recommendations, but to be honest, like, I still don't feel like I'm an expert. So at that point, you know, I was like, this is what worked for me. I'm not like a doctor. I'm not a scientist.
Right.
So do your own research, because I can only do so much.
Yeah.
I only know so much on the chemical side. So after my son was born, I really started thinking about how we could solve this in a way that we could reach a lot of people. And that was when the Sorette and the Sorette seal of approval came into play. And so the first thing that I did was start pitching these experts. So one of my first conversations was with Dr. Laura Shaheen, who's a OB fertility specialist out in Seattle. She is a thought leader in like the non-toxic product space and how it affects fertility. She was on the medical board for Beauty Counter. One to say, she was not taught any of this in medical school. And I think there was like one class in her graduate program that talked about the association with like, whether it was PFAS or some other plastic and fertility health. And that really triggered her to start doing her own research. And so she basically self-educated and became a huge thought leader on the topic. So I reached out to her and pitched her when this was just kind of an idea and a concept, and started doing that with other folks. So Dr. Carmen Masurlian, who's a reproductive epidemiologist at Harvard, she's actually the one who's writing these research papers. She's written over like 90 research articles on all of these chemicals and their effects on reproductive and developmental health. And so I knew if I was going to do this, I wanted to do it in a way that was really credible. And again, leaning on people who are the experts, because that's not my background. And I never will claim to be someone who has that background. I definitely know more than the average consumer for sure, but I'm not the scientist.
Yeah. And when you say leaning on them, you're learning which ingredients are harmful and which ingredients are okay? Or what do you mean by leaning on them?
So we've created the scientific advisory board. We have 7, potentially we're adding another one. So almost 8 folks across women's health and science. So we have dermatologists, OBs, fertility specialists, Carmen, who's the reproductive epidemiologist. We're going to be adding a public health expert. We have nutritionists. We're going to be adding another pediatrician.
Incredible.
And they have helped create the framework in how we vet the products.
Gotcha.
So our no-go list is how we vet personal care products. It's over 26,000 chemicals, including big compound groups. And it's basically aggregated regulatory lists from across the globe. So you guys know this, like FDA bans 34 ingredients in personal care products. So we've leaned on the global regulatory. So EU, Health Canada, Japan, California Practice 65, Vermont Chemicals of Concern for Early Childhood Development, and a handful of others who've done the research, who have the research. And that is how we've created our list of prohibited and then also restricted ingredients, and that's how we vet products. So our scientific advisory board really helped shape that in partnership with like another toxicologist group.
I mean,
Incredible.
I think it's so, you have like taken the biggest hurdle out of everyone's life, which is I have no time to look up the ingredients. I don't have the energy. I can't memorize all these ingredients myself. And so what Sorette is doing is making it so easy for all of us to just be like, okay, they already vetted it for us. Let's just go for it. What would you say are like the top 5 worst ingredients in products?
It's really hard to distill it down to top 5.
Yeah.
But I think, and it's really hard to say that in a way that you'll be able to easily identify them on an ingredient statement. So, you hear phthalates, parabens, but I think what people don't really realize is that those chemical classes are like thousands of chemicals. So it's like,
Right. You won't necessarily see phthalate on an ingredient list. It'll be like a different name, and that is considered a phthalate, but it's exactly. And same with parabens and same with carcinogens, endocrine disruptors. Those are all just categories, and there's like hundreds and sometimes thousands of ingredients that could be classified as those things.
Exactly.
So it's so hard to know like the exact ingredients to stay away from.
Totally. And so for us, and this was in a conversation with Dr. Carmen Messerlin, who was, we were talking about BPA, for instance. BPA is like everyone, pretty much, I feel like everyone would know that or recognize that word as like BPA free. You don't want something that has BPA in it. However, what happens when that becomes the norm. And in this culture where every brand and their mother is saying this product is BPA free, the chemical corporation just basically creates a carbon copy of that and then calls it something else. So BPA falls under bisphenol, the class. So for us at Sorette, we ban the entire class so that cannot happen under our seal.
Yep. Talk to us about retinols. This is something that I'm so interested. I have like a passion for skincare, and I've been using my like phytoretinols, the bakuchiol serums, but I'd love to hear your take and Sorette's take on the retinol class of ingredients and alternatives for pregnant women and mothers.
Yes. So retinol is a vitamin A derivative. The reason it's not recommended during pregnancy is because it's high in vitamin A. And so we don't want to risk the absorption of vitamin A to such a degree that it would be potentially dangerous for the development of the baby. And so that's where the recommendation to avoid retinol or vitamin A derivative active ingredients comes from. You know, in all honesty too, I think when you're pregnant or going through a fertility journey, your skin is really sensitive anyway. So it is likely that it potentially might not
be too harsh for you.
Yeah, it might be too harsh. So it's been really great to find all of these alternative active ingredients. So bakuchiol, you'll see on our site, we have it in our Dr. Rogers night treatment, Cora Organics, a retinol alternative serum. And a lot of folks are putting it into this like night active treatment where it's promoting the cell turnover just like a retinol product would. It's something to be said that, you know, there's no study saying that it is black and white safe for pregnancy. So, and that kind of goes back to this claim around pregnancy safe in general. Whereas like retinol, it's like, you should avoid this. There's been like rat studies around the development of the embryo, etc., in a negative light. But for us, it goes back to like the pregnancy safe claim not being the way that brands should position themselves to the market, because you really can't prove something is 100% safe or unsafe for pregnancy, because you'll never be able to do clinical testing on pregnant women, and it's just not ethical to do.
So
it's sort of like retroactive.
Carry any weight? If I see a product that says pregnancy safe, it's not.
It's just there's no threshold for that brand to meet, and it's honestly just not accurate. You can't prove something is 100% safe or not. So for us, our standard and our no-go list is, our standard is rooted in the no-go list, and that is basically this product does not contain any known hazardous or suspected to be hazardous ingredients pertaining to human health and reproductive and developmental health. So that's just something to be said in looking at all products for this life stage and around human health in general. Upwards of 60% of chemicals in personal care products don't have any studies against them.
That's my question is like, you know, I hear that the industry comes out with all these new ingredients all the time, and there's, you know, one area where it's like this ingredient has been studied and it's been proven that it can be harmful, and then there's an area that this ingredient just hasn't been studied at all. Where does Sorette fall on that, and like what's your experience with ingredients that just have no proven safety data with them? So that's called like a data gap. Essentially, it's like a gray area. And so for us, we had to kind of draw the line somewhere where we require that the brands don't have any sort of known or suspected to be hazardous ingredients. And then our list and standard is evolving as new research comes out. So as soon as we if there's any sort of red flags, we obviously will evolve and change the standard. But at this point, that's the model. Who doesn't love a candle? I know some of my simple pleasures in life include cleaning my house, getting cozy on the couch, putting on my favorite show, and lighting a beautiful candle. But what I don't love about traditional candles are the PFAs, formaldehyde releasers, synthetic fragrances, heavy metals, and volatile organic compounds that are often found in them. It definitely just ruins the experience for me if I know that I'm potentially breathing in carcinogenic or hormone disrupting chemicals. And this is why I almost exclusively shop Fate Naturals candles. She has somehow made non-toxic candles smell as as potent as the ones that you would buy at Home Goods. I have yet to recommend this candle brand to someone who does not absolutely love them. What's also so fun about Fate Naturals is that she does these seasonal drops. So each season she comes out with a collection of 6 scented candles. The spring collection that just dropped has the scents Succulent Garden, Yuzu Blossom, Blueberry Muffin, Grapefruit Basil, Beach Bonfire, and Coastal Cottage. She also does a Candle of the Month Club where you'll be the first to try exclusive and new scents. The past few months have been Sweet Magnolia for April, which is a delicate floral scent, Lucky Shamrock for March, which is a combination of a crisp aloe and a zesty lime, and February was a red velvet cupcake, which was very sweet and buttery. I have tried lots and lots of candles, and I just always come back to Fate Naturals. They are always my first recommendation when someone is looking for a non-toxic candle. You can get 10% off any Fate Naturals purchase, including monthly recurring subscriptions, with my code DetoxYourDome. That is 10% off any Fate Naturals purchase with the code DetoxYourDome, spelled DetoxYourdome. I promise you will love Fate Naturals.
If I see products like organic or natural, are those better words? Or when I look at a product, like what are like the red flags that you notice that I like shouldn't trust?
I wouldn't say you shouldn't necessarily not trust. I think you just have to dig deeper. So if you do see organic or natural or clean, or I mean, safe is kind of a crazy claim for brands to make sometimes, I think. But, I think it just requires the consumer to dig a little bit deeper, because natural, clean, organic to some degree doesn't really hold weight unless they are very transparent with the consumer on what that actually means. So it's not necessarily like a red flag. I just think it's a flag waving at you to like look a little bit deeper into the actual ingredient statement.
Right. At the end of the day, you just got to look at the ingredients or look for a seal of approval like Sorette.
I mean, look into the brand too. I think that a lot of brands are doing a great job at transparency. I mean, look at like Henry Rose, for instance. What an incredible, innovative fragrance line who is taking the stance of full transparency on fragrance. Like that does not happen like ever. So I think also just really being able to trust the brand.
Right.
Do you have any favorite brands?
All of our Sorette-approved brands are my favorite brands.
No favorites. No favorites here.
But I mean, what's so fun about starting this business is I get to try all these awesome products.
Yeah.
And I definitely rotate a bunch of products and favorites, and I have a ton of empties on certain products. I fell in love with the Bakuchinol products, Dr. Rogers Night Treatment. The Cora Retinol Alternative is awesome. Le Prunier, I don't know if you guys know that brand.
Now I got to look into them.
Oh my gosh, such a gorgeous product.
What's the product? We're getting it.
Plum seed oil. So it's in face oil. It smells divine.
This sounds amazing.
One ingredient. It's just plum seed oil.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm sold.
Started by 3 daughters, their father and like family business was a plum farm out in California, and they were discarding the plum seed for years, and then kind of did some more research and like, what actually are there like any cool properties of it? And then discovered that it actually has like a ton of antioxidant properties. It has like a natural SPF of like 14 or something like that. Oh my gosh. So they have a plum oil, they have a plum screen, which is a really nice mineral-based sunscreen.
Okay, I can't wait to try it. This is reminding me of the Bloom Effects brand. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but it was a similar story where they had a tulip farm out in Amsterdam, and I believe it's out in Amsterdam, and they would like discard all these tulips as soon, they're only in bloom for a few weeks, and then they would discard all these tulips. And this woman, I believe it was her husband's family farm, and she comes in to this family and she's like, guys, there's so many benefits of these tulips. And so she, after they bloom, she takes them and then they, work them into skincare products, and it's like this whole regenerative process. It's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. Honestly, like I also love hearing like the founder stories. I think it's really important to our specific consumer too.
Right.
Majority of the people who are brands that are Sorette-approved are female founded and are also mothers themselves. And a handful of them have started their companies because of something along their motherhood journeys. So very synergistic. Yeah.
I've noticed that too. I did a little post on International Women's Day because I was just thinking about, International Women's Day. I'm thinking about the women that inspire me. And I was like, almost everyone that I come across in this space are women who are taking matters into their own hands. Like they're looking at these products, especially if they're, mothers, young mothers, they're having kids. They're like, this is not the standard that I want for myself and my children. And then they've, started their own brands. And it's like, it's amazing to watch this industry change by the force of female founders. I think it's incredible. We're shaping it to be the industry that we want and that serves us best. So going back to, you have this team of medical professionals, of scientists, and, thinking back your experience not having the medical guidance, do you think there is now more medical guidance for young mothers and pregnant people? What's your team? Are they working on ways to educate people more from, a medical stance? Because like you said, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor. I'm trying to build this platform to provide knowledge, but I would love to understand, what the medical professionals that you work with every day are seeing and doing in that space to try to educate people on making these changes.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's definitely something that we want to support and be like a resource and benefit to all of these practitioners wherever they are. I think that's likely not going to happen from an institutionalized strategy. I don't think that they're gonna all of a sudden start teaching it in med school.
Right.
But why not?
I don't know, but I think that would take a long time to get to.
Right.
In the meantime, I do think that we are in conversations with some of these private maternal health practices that have been popping up, which are amazing. So those are usually the easiest, not the easiest, but I guess, more favorable for this type of relationship. It's bigger hospitals and other practices are really kind of hard to tap into. So, we've started there and being really just a resource for practitioners, midwives, doulas, etc. Because for us, we're not one brand. We have an assortment of brands across price points, across categories. So it doesn't feel as gimmicky in a way for the practitioner. They're not recommending one brand that might be unattainable for someone. And so that's kind of our mindset for now. Maybe that will be hopefully that will be a bigger part of our journey as we grow.
Right.
But I know, again, going back to Carmen, she does have conversations regularly with fertility specialists in probably across the country, but I know she does in Boston with Mass General.
I think that's definitely an area where, if people are going through infertility and I feel like that's usually an avenue that people start looking at ingredients. I know my cousin talked to me. She's like, oh, I know all about this stuff because, she went through IVF and her whole fertility journey. And it was definitely when she started recognizing and trying to pay more attention to the ingredients in her products. So, okay, going back to Sorette and the brands and the products that you guys recommend and you give that seal of approval from, we know you have skincare on there. So what are the other product categories that we can expect to see on the Sorette website?
Yeah, so we started with skincare, skincare and body care as our first category because that is honestly one of the most complex categories to tackle, as we know. And it's usually one of the first things that people do swap aside from stop drinking alcohol and certain foods that everyone knows.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was why we wanted to start there. It's also a huge market. There's so many brands in this space. And so from there, we do have plans to scale across categories and really help this consumer throughout her motherhood journey. Maybe she meets us at this point, whether it's in their fertility journey or pregnancy, she's looking for skincare, and then the baby's born, then she's looking for products for baby, products for household, then it's, pantry products and vitamins and supplements. And so that's really kind of our roadmap. But we're doing it in a way that's very intentional.
Yep.
And thoughtful. So we're not going to tackle all of those categories over the next 6 to 12 months, but that's kind of the goal eventually.
The whole life cycle of finding out you're pregnant or even going through your fertility journey to raising your child. We can go to Sorette.
Yeah, and we say Sorette-approved for motherhood because it really is the whole
Right. It's all
It's
of
this
it.
whole life stage. I
Are
mean,
there men's products on Sorette too? And how are you targeting?
there's a lot of like, yeah, there's a lot of unisex products that you can
Yeah.
use for everyone, like the Captain Blankenship hair products. Like anyone can use that. My husband uses it, our kids use it. Like it's hair care for the family. Mini Bloom, same thing. I mean, she really started that product for kids, but I use that stuff in the shower, especially her travel size shampoo and conditioner. And then for men specifically, that is definitely on the roadmap too, because men's fertility plays a huge role in that trying to conceive journey, but also the health of the baby.
Right.
I know it's often forgotten about that men play, a major, major role. So what are some of the things that they're swapping out?
I think the first thing that people usually look at for men is their deodorant, because that's something that they're putting
Throw
on.
away the Old Spice.
Right, they're putting on every day in a very vulnerable area with, all the lymph nodes, etc. So that's, I think, one of the first things that men swap out. And so we have a great deodorant on our site. It's Kinfield.
I've heard amazing things about this deodorant. I've been wanting to
It
try it.
is, I've tried every deodorant on the market, I think. Especially when you're going through pregnancy and postpartum,
Mm.
your body just like goes through these weird cycles
Yeah.
of BO, and it's just gross. And
Yeah.
so
You're like,
nothing.
nothing's
Like, I
working.
need the good stuff.
Yes, I've been using it for
Okay.
6 months and I haven't
Kinfield's
swapped out.
Kinfield
So
Deo.
Field's deodorant, and it's a refillable carton, so it's
Love.
like very sustainable, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband uses that too.
I
So
love that.
I think, yeah, deodorant, and then I don't know. I have him on a whole. He like uses all Sorette-approved products for
Yeah.
everything now, so he's probably not the ideal person to.
Yeah.
He's like on another side of the spectrum at this
Yeah.
point.
He reaps
Um,
all the benefits of being married
right.
to
I
you.
think it's like, yeah, deodorant, cleanser, toothpaste, that type of thing.
Basically
And
everything.
like no, yeah, and no like aftershave or like fragrance for the men.
Got it. And then for your little babies, what are some of like the top products that you recommend swapping out?
Probably just say cut the fragrance
Yeah.
with little kids. We love the Mini Bloom products again. That's one of our Sorette-approved products. Super gentle and doesn't like strip the skin. My daughter has really dry skin in the winter and like has eczema flare-ups. So I also use the Dr. Rogers body wash on her because that's really, really gentle and hydrating too. And then there's a brand called Curated, which has awesome shea butter. It's like a really thick shea butter tub. And so I always lather that on them. There's another product called Lanning that has like an amazing body oil, and my daughter loves putting that on her body.
I love.
And yeah, I think I would say just try to cut out like any sort of artificial fragrance because
Yeah.
you just don't, unless it's Sorette-approved, you don't know what's in there.
Right.
And that could be really irritating.
Right. One of the very first brands that I started using when I transitioned to a non-toxic lifestyle, and one that I've consistently kept purchasing products from, is Primally Pure. They have such simple yet effective products for skin, body, hair, home, and baby. They use ingredients that you can just recognize and understand when looking at the ingredient label. They also source their ingredients from farms that prioritize soil health as well as regenerative and sustainable practices. So you just know that they are the highest quality products and you can feel good about purchasing and supporting them. Okay, some pillar products that I recommend. First, their charcoal deodorant. This is the one and only clean, non-toxic deodorant that actually works for me. I've recommended it to so many people who are also now hooked. Their baby balm, even though this is for babies, this is what I use as my alternative to Aquaphor or Vaseline. I have it in all of our cars, bags. I keep it next to the bed. It's so hydrating and nourishing. I use it on my lips mainly, but also all over my body. I sometimes get eczema and just like dry, irritated skin in the winter, and it's been a huge help for that. I also cannot live without their spirulina soothing mask. I do it at least once a week. I'll do some sort of clay mask and then the Primally Pure soothing mask afterwards. Not only does it make my skin so bouncy and restored, but it also just smells so good. I swear it has like aromatherapy benefits. I'll do it every Sunday on my self-care Sundays, and it just like resets me back for the week. I recommend the soothing mask for people with dry skin, and then for people with oily, combination, or acne prone skin, I recommend the clarifying mask. Other Primally Pure products that I love are their body butters that are made with tallow. The almond and vanilla one actually makes me smell like a cookie. Their cleansing oils, their dry shampoo, their candles, shower steamers. I also gifted their lip oil to a few people over Christmas, and I've heard wonderful things. You actually just can't go wrong with anything Primally Pure. I have tried at least a dozen of their products at this point, and I've had such wonderful experiences with every single one of them. They also ship completely plastic free, which always gains points in my book. Every time I use something from Primally Pure, it really feels like I'm treating myself. All of their products just have a very elevated feeling and scent. I always say that I feel like I'm at the spa when I'm using Primally Pure. I am so happy to tell you that I can get you a 10% discount off of all Primally Pure products if you use the code DetoxYourDome at checkout. That is DetoxYourdome for 10% off at checkout. So talk to us a little bit about plastics and microplastics. I think, we all know we're trying to stay away from microplastics and plastics as much as we can. Do you have any tips for how you can swap out like plastic baby bottles or plastic products for children?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, and I think our approach from a like brand and like ethos perspective is, as a consumer, and a mom, it's really overwhelming to talk, like to even think about this topic because it's unavoidable, truly. Like your kids are going to be exposed to plastics unless you're living in a bubble in like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And even then you might still be drinking water with plastics in it.
Right. Whether that's like in your car, like touching the plastics.
Yeah.
Even if you have like everything in your house doesn't have plastic in it,
Right.
which is probably still unavoidable at this point.
Yeah.
So I think it's more so like thinking from the mindset of like lowering your toxic burden from a plastic standpoint.
Yeah.
So when you have the option to purchase something that's not plastic, entertain that and like do your research on if that makes sense for your family. So for me, when we were looking at bottles for the baby, I chose a glass bottle because I just, thought it was going to be, if I had the option, I was going to choose the glass versus the plastic.
Makes sense.
Right.
However, what's really frustrating from a consumer standpoint is that when you're breast pumping, it's all through plastic.
So you can't win.
You can't win. So it's like, from a consumer standpoint, it's like, okay, well, I'm pumping, like I'm trying to do my best, giving my baby the pumped milk, but it's all flowing through all this plastic into a plastic bottle or into the glass bottle if you have that attachment. So like,
I'm seeing an area for innovation here. Anyone listening out there?
I mean, but the thing is, like,
do it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Silicone? I don't know. Are there like
pumps? I mean, silicone is better, but I don't think it's like the best option.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, maybe.
All right. Well, some smart listener out there, get on this and let us know.
So I really think we should do it ourselves. I'm like so serious.
So I think just our mentality is like,
Yeah.
you have to think about it and like,
Right. Doing the best you can.
What you can control.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Don't get too overwhelmed.
I try to buy like all wooden toys for my kids, but at the same time, like I can't control what my mom or like what my mother-in-law or
Right. Or like the minute your kid sees like the bluey toy on the shelf, like they're gonna want.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. How do you handle like other generations chiming in to your lifestyle choices?
I feel really lucky because I think my parents and my in-laws are really supportive and are excited to like learn about it. So I don't feel like I'm in that type of position where I have to like kind of constantly talk to them or educate them. They're all very plugged into Sorette and like
I love
our mission and our education, and they'll definitely listen.
And
to
the world is so different than what it was.
It is. It's so true. And I just don't think that, I talk to my mom about this sometimes, like they didn't have all this information at their fingertips, like through social media.
Right.
So it's amazing that we have all this information from like, whether it's talking about like plastics and products or parenting advice from like a actual child psychologist who's talking on social media. They didn't have like any of that type of perspective. The only, they had what was in their immediate network, maybe like what was on TV and like books, etc. But we have just so many opinions with a click of a button.
Right.
And so I think it's a blessing and a curse in a way because we're kind of constantly overloaded with like, okay, well, I'm trying to sleep train the baby, but there's like 30 different ways I could do this.
Yeah.
I know.
I follow 17 sleep specialists.
Yeah.
They're all saying something a little bit different. And like, I don't know what to do. Now I'm really overwhelmed and anxious.
Yep.
And then I call my mom and she's like, well, like, I just did this and just stuck with it for a few days. And
That's
then
literally my mom too. She's like, my day, we didn't do any of that. She's like, what is sleep training? We just stuck you in the car seat and drove around.
Exactly.
And you're like, I turned out fine. Like maybe I should just follow what my mom did, but no.
So how do you balance being an entrepreneur, starting Sorette with 2 children, 4 years and younger, 2 toddlers at home?
It's pretty much utter chaos.
What's your like self-care routine?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, balance it's kind of a hard word to use because it doesn't feel balanced per se.
Okay.
It just feels like creating like kind of boundaries in certain areas. So like we were chatting before we started recording, but like I try to kind of time box my day in a way where I'm like very focused on work and very productive. And then, the clock strikes whatever. And then I'm totally on parenting duty and like,
so like no multitasking.
Yeah, fully present as a mom because I do feel like quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Some days I'm like traveling, so I'm away for 48 hours and it's totally work mode. And then, on the weekends it's totally parent mode. So it's not it's just a day by day type of relationship. And I feel lucky that I have control in a way that like if I wanted to make room to go see my daughter at her spring concert, I can. So I really appreciate the flexibility of it.
Right.
But
And what a blessing of a time that we live in where and I mean, I don't know if you work from home, but just hearing your journey of being pregnant for the first time during COVID, what a crazy time. And then, having your first child, being pregnant again, starting this company, it's like work life can all exist in the same living room. And now you have kids in that mix. Like that must be crazy.
It is wild. I do feel like the working from home culture especially for parents it's so needed, honestly. Just the flexibility, even if it's a hybrid, it's really nice to be able to take your kid to the doctor and not have to like take time off to do that. That being said, I do have like a small workspace outside of the house because I have 2 kids under 4 and they know exactly where I'm hiding and like, it would not work out for me. But, first in terms of self-care, I definitely try to carve out time every day to work out. For me, that's my self-care. I try to get to the gym every morning between 7 and 8. Whether I'm like going crazy doing workout there or kind of just like going slow. Like today, I go to this weight training gym in South Boston, Lifted. It's amazing.
Oh, I love that place.
I need to go.
But I can take my time and it's really just like a way for me to flush out like any sort of anxiety. And I actually get like a lot of clarity when I'm working out in terms of like things to do that day. So that is my self-care. And then as soon as my kids go to bed, I usually eat dinner with them early, like around like 5:30, and then we do the whole bedtime routine. And then I'm usually like horizontal the rest of the night after they go to bed doing emails and etc., watching TV.
Love.
With my husband. So like that's really the other part of the self-care zone.
I love it. Would you have done anything differently if you had to start over again?
I don't know. I mean, part of me is like maybe like taken the leap of faith earlier and started earlier, but at the same time, I think it was kind of divine timing in a way where I went through the 2 pregnancies. My son was at, not a newborn when I started. Really, like he was like 9 months when I went full time on Sorette. So I think the timing worked out. I think I would have I wish I gave myself like a little bit more confidence taking that risk. It took me like years, honestly, to make that leap. But
such a risk.
the growth that I feel like I've had over the past year and a half has made it all worth it.
Incredible.
Regardless of how Sorette ends up turning out.
I think it's going to continue to thrive.
How was your second pregnancy compared to your first?
Both of my pregnancies were really easy, honestly. Like I feel very lucky saying that. A lot of my girlfriends had like horrible nausea, and I mean they were fine. They were great, both of them. My skin with my daughter was horrible.
Was it the same for your son or?
No, I had like glowing skin. So
amazing.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, I definitely carried the babies differently. Like my shape was different, like where I carried the weight. So that's interesting. But I had healthy, happy pregnancies. Definitely ate a lot of ice cream both times.
Love. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I know. It's like one of those things where it's like your vice.
Yes. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And you're still living in the city.
We live in the city.
Nice. With
We
kids.
love
That's
it.
hard. And yeah, how do you navigate that?
We live in South Boston, and honestly, it's like a very family-friendly neighborhood. So everything's like super convenient, like school, my office, getting to like downtown, etc. for my husband. So it's tight for sure in terms of like close quarters, but
Right. The
the
kids are still
convenience,
small though.
Yeah.
the kids are small, and just honestly at this age, it's really convenient.
Yeah.
Everything's at your fingertips. It's okay. So going back to mothers and trying to make swaps, I feel like one of the biggest criticisms of trying to make cleaner, safer swaps is that these products are going to be more expensive. What are your tips on finding affordable products, or what could you say to someone to sort of appease them that, maybe this doesn't have to be more expensive, or do you find that it is sometimes just more expensive and you're having to invest in products?
Yeah, I think it's like there's two pieces that I would recommend. I would say I think part of like limiting and lowering your toxic burden is just like simple math. So it's like take your 15-step skincare routine that you're using all conventional products that you're not sure on the product safety. Let's slim it down to like 3 or 4 products for your skincare routine.
Yeah.
You don't
Let's
need 15.
Yes, let's use vetted formulations that are efficacious. And I would hope and I would think that the total price of those 4 products would be less than what you're using with that 15-step routine. So that's kind of like one strategy there. The other piece would be looking at like different categories that you could like totally eliminate buying finished good products. So like household cleaning, for instance. I've used a bunch of amazing natural cleaning products, but we just started making our own vinegar-based cleaning solution because we go through it so fast and it's like very easy to do. It's like 3 ingredients. You literally can use it with, vinegar, like any sort of like simple dish soap, and then water. And if you wanted to add a drop of essential oil, you can, or like a rind of a lemon.
Wait, so vinegar, water, essential oil, lemon, and that is a cleaning
You can do
product?
that, or if you wanted to like add a few drops of like very clean dish soap, so like
Interesting.
for
And
like
it works? Like this
Oh,
is
yes.
your like
Oh yeah,
We
yeah,
literally
on your
clean
kitchen
everything
counter?
with vinegar. Like I
What?
clean everything with vinegar. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
All right, so make your own products.
Yep.
Okay.
Just get the big
Fair.
gallon
Like
jug for a couple dollars and you're good to go.
probably $3 or something
Yeah.
like that. We have a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
Same
So you
thing
can
with
use
like
it for
baking
everything.
soda.
Yep. Throw it in the laundry.
Baking soda
Yep.
in
So like
Make
laundry?
a
lots
little
of ways that
syrup.
you can like kind of cut costs there,
Right.
in a way that's like approachable and feasible. I
Right.
think
Just bring it back to basics.
beauty and skincare, it's worth it to slim down how many
Yeah,
products.
less is more. No,
Right.
that makes sense.
Right. So, how can young mothers go to and lean on Sorette for learning about all of this stuff? I know you have your marketplace where they can shop your products.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram at shopsorette. And then you can shop online at shopsorette.com. And then we will be rolling out a bunch of more like editorial content pieces this year with a kind of refreshed website. So more to come there.
Exciting.
We have our own podcast called The Motherhood Journey by Sorette, which will be launching season 2 next quarter. And you can
Exciting.
learn all about brands that we work with and the brand founder stories. And we're rolling out a bunch of different events this year. So I'm not sure that when this podcast will be coming out, but we have one next Friday at the Jenny Kane store in Newbury Street.
Exciting.
And then we have a bunch all across the country. So stay tuned on our Instagram for that.
Incredible.
Awesome.
I guess my last question is, do you have any words of wisdom or piece of advice for a mother who's just starting this? She's feeling super overwhelmed. What is your piece of advice for her?
I would say start with the product that's empty. Just start there,
Yeah.
because you don't need to throw out every single thing that's in your house. I know
Right.
sometimes I'm a purger, so like I get that mentality, but
You're like looking around your house and you're like, oh yeah, I went through that cabinet last week.
yeah, literally like today I went through like my kids' room and toys, etc.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably the easiest way to go about it is like, all right, I'm running low on my body wash. Let's start there, and making it kind of like product by product instead of like cleaning the whole house out. I think
It's
that's
less daunting. I get that.
very overwhelming. Yeah.
Right.
My last question is, what is your favorite part about being a mom?
Oh my gosh. I think becoming a mom gave me a total sense of purpose and really changed who I am. And so I'm really grateful to have become a mom in that sense. But I don't know, it's just so fun to see them grow and develop, and it's very rewarding when they can like actually talk to you and like tell you that
I
they
love
love
that.
you. It's like
Oh.
amazing.
You're like, you better love me.
But like it's so fulfilling and rewarding. So I think
Aw.
that's definitely my favorite part.
I love it. And it makes everything you're doing right now worth it.
For sure. And you know, I have a daughter, so it's really important, I think, for her to see that, you know, I'm doing this and taking a leap of faith and trusting myself and building this for women.
Right. Right.
And helping moms. So it's all kind of full circle.
Well, what a beautiful story. You are doing something that this world absolutely needs. And we are so grateful that you are working on Sorette, and congratulations on taking this leap of faith, because it is totally paying off. And I love watching Sorette, and I can't wait to continue to see how you guys grow and to always check in on the new Sorette-approved products and try out as many as I can.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.